Hello, and welcome to the 2026 FNP-POW video as well as podcast. I'm Dr. Julia Rogers, your host and fellow nurse practitioner, and today we are going to bring you those powerful pearls of wisdom that can transform your practice and also elevate our entire profession. Today's episode is about something that affects all of us within our practices, and that is advocacy. And I couldn't be more thrilled to welcome a true champion for our profession. Joining us today is Dr. Michelle Nelson, a powerhouse in NP advocacy, who currently serves as the Georgia State Liaison for the American Association of Nurse Practitioners. Dr. Nelson's impressive leadership journey includes serving as state president of the United Advanced Practice Registered Nurses of Georgia and co-director of the Coalition Advanced Practice Registered Nurses. Dr. Nelson, welcome to the FNP-POW.
Well, Julia, first and foremost, I thank you so much for the opportunity to be with you today, and to the Nurse Practitioner Journal for making this possible. And I am so delighted to share with you what it is that I know. So I'm looking forward to our discussion.
We know that your work is really about unifying APRN voices and also just overall promoting our profession and our identity as a profession. And you've made such an impact. So I'm eager to dive more into your story, from what first ignited your passion for advocacy to how those leadership roles have changed, and what is your vision for our profession related to advocacy?
Well, first and foremost, I'm a transplant from Brooklyn, New York. I moved to Georgia about 20 years ago and was dragged here by my husband, kicking and screaming. I was practicing as a nurse practitioner in Staten Island, New York, where I went to college and then transitioned into practice. And I came to Georgia and realized that although I was living in Georgia, but practicing in New York, the nurse practitioners here, the advanced practice nurses here in Georgia, were extremely restricted in their ability to do their work. And I couldn't understand what was going on. And I said to myself, I'm no faster, stronger, smarter than the advanced practice nurses that I lived with, that I played with, that I advocated with here in Georgia, and that I really needed to do something. So fast forward, I became the president of United Advanced Practice Registered Nurses of Georgia, and I was invited to the Capitol by my lobbyist, the incomparable Juliana McConnell. And she said, now, Michelle, when we get to the Capitol, you're going to go meet with your senator and your representative. And I started with my senator, and, knees knocking, because people don't believe when I tell them that I'm shy. But I got there and I was speaking to him, and I started my elevator speech. And not even 2 minutes in, he said, Dr. Nelson, let me stop you there. Let me tell you why you're not going to get what you want. First of all, advanced practice nurses are not together. You operate in silos, and there's no consistent message. We do not know what you're fighting for. And on top of it, you guys fight each other. So it's very easy for us to split you, for there to be different messaging, for those who are fighting tooth and nail against you to be victorious, because, you guys don't have it together. And it was like he had taken his hand and slapped me across the face. It was such a rude awakening. And I said to myself that there is just no way that this is going to continue, that I wanted to do things differently here in the state of Georgia, that I wanted to make sure that advanced practice nurses had the ability to practice to the depth and breadth and the fullest extent of their training, their expertise, their certification, their education, that the people who live in Georgia deserved better. And it really isn't about advanced practice nurses, right? We make six-figure salaries, we have insurance, we are living well, not as well as we absolutely could here in the state of Georgia, but it really is about the patients, the people, their families, the communities, all of Georgia, and nationally, People deserve better. And so I just went about trying to change things to make it better for Georgians.
And I'm sure that everyone is so glad that you did. And then now you can give some of that back to, other nurse practitioners in other states about how to maneuver that.
Julia, the last part of your question, you asked me, what was my vision for Georgia? And my vision most certainly is to get everyone engaged and to make sure that everyone is part of advocating in their own way. How do we as leaders, we as advocates, meet people where they are so that they know that they don't have to have a big mouth, or they don't have to start at level 100. They could start at 0, right where they are, and that they can lift their voices in their own way, because any little bit helps at this point.
Advocacy can really mean a lot of different things. So how would you define advocacy really within the context of advanced practice nursing? And then let us know about how this definition has evolved throughout your career.
So to me, advocacy would be defined as intentionally being involved and engaged and steeped in fighting for something that you are absolutely passionate about. You can advocate for all kinds of things, right? But when you're advocating for nursing, you're advocating for optimal health care. You're advocating for the individuals that you're charged to serve, because at our core, we're nurses. We all took an oath to be able to provide cost-effective, safe, quality care as a right for everyone and not a privilege for some. So how can we come together, and not saying that there aren't going to be dissenting voices or different perspectives, most certainly, but that we have a common goal at the end of the day as we try to come to consensus to meet the needs of the individuals that we serve. So advocacy can be in many forms. It could be anywhere from, if all I can do is get up and pray today and say, I'm praying for my brothers and sisters who are advocating for optimal health care, and that's all I can give today, we'll accept that. All the way up to, I am so confident, caring, courageous, and locked in that I want to be the legislator who is going to craft and enact those laws and make sure that people are following them because they're enforced. So anything from just getting up today and I just want to be, and I want to be a part of a movement, and I'm just going to pray and send good vibes, to I am the person that's getting up every day and I'm the tip of the spear and I'm fighting for legislation to make healthcare better for everyone.
Well, and at fighting for all of that has led you to be the Georgia State Liaison for the AANP. And there you really are at the forefront of important legislation that affects our profession. So can you break down the Improving Care and Access to Nurses, which is the ICAN Act for our listeners, and really tell us about the most significant provisions and how its passage would specifically change our day-to-day NP practice nationwide?
So I just want to let everyone know that, lucky me, I have had the absolute fortune to be elected by my peers to progress from being the state liaison from AANP to now being the Region 11 director for AANP. So that means that I cover Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. And shout out to the Georgia State Liaison for doing incredible work. I work hand in hand with her. Her name is Dr. Pamela O'Grabish. So shout out to you, Pam. But hand in hand, we're working together to really change things throughout the region. See, I live in Georgia, which is part of the Southern Belt, where we have some of the worst healthcare outcomes. We are the most restricted states in terms of practice. And I'm not saying that it's possible that we'll get full practice authority. I'm saying that we will. I am manifesting and I'm speaking it into existence because purely and unequivocally, we are working to the greatest extent, the hardest we can, to make sure that individuals are receiving from advanced practice nurses the fullest extent of what they have to bring to the table. Now, I'm going to use some crude math. Let's say that full practice authority is operating at 100%. I'm going to say here in Georgia, this just Michelle's crazy math in her head, we're at 50%. So there is so much room for growth of what we are able to bring, what we're able to give, and that other 50% leaves the state bereft of individuals who can actually provide care. These are individuals that are practice ready, they're ready to go on day one. There are so many advanced practice nurses in Georgia and throughout the Southeast who are experienced with decades of practice under their belt, who could go specifically into rural areas and make sure individuals get the care they need and deserve. Optimal health care, again, should be a right and not a privilege for the well-heeled and those that can, afford to get optimal health care. This is what everyone deserves. And as a nation, we are only as strong as the weakest among us. And so therefore, anything that we can do to make sure that individuals are getting access to care, and not just access to care, access to quality care, it is our responsibility to ensure that that is being received.
Well, and moving over a little bit, just being an advocacy for us as nurses, we know that lately in social media and in legislature, there's ongoing advocacy that is regarding specifically graduate nurses not being considered a profession in certain contexts. So based on your working in promoting professional role identification, can you discuss a little bit of the implications of this classification issue and how it's going to impact nurse practitioners?
Julia, it's a mess. This whole thing is an absolute mess. I can say to you that, I'm an Instagram girly. I love to go peek and see what's going on social media. And social media has been absolutely exploding when it comes to this discussion about the Department of Education not having nursing placed on the list of professionals who get access to those highest levels of funding to be able to fund their education. How absolutely ridiculous and preposterous this is that. I've actually seen on social media advanced practice nurses who say, well, this must be a good thing because there's too many advanced practice nurses and the cost of education and on and on and on and on. I'm here to tell you that no one should be held from getting the education that they want and that they deserve, particularly if that education is going to be in service to others. Here in my state, in Georgia, there are 11 million plus souls. There are about 170,000 nurses, of which a small subset is advanced practice nurses. We have roughly, let's say, about 40,000 physicians in the state. Add the 170,000 to the 40-something thousand physicians, that's still not enough to make sure that we're ensuring the health of 11 million individuals. It also stands to reason that the needs are not going to be met when the largest concentration of providers are in Metro Atlanta, whereas there's so many individuals that are living in the rural areas. Georgia gets an A+ for business. It's the number one place to come do business. But according to Dr. Nelson's grading scale, we should get a Z- for healthcare outcomes. We excel at being in the bottom 10th when it comes to, or worse, when it comes to healthcare outcomes. And we must do better. Georgians deserve it. And you have individuals who are ready, willing, and able to go out, hang their shingle in rural areas and provide the care that is so sorely needed. And so those shackles need to be removed from individuals who want to do the work. But if we are in a situation where educational attainment is being hampered for a variety of reasons, and Julia, let me also say to you that we still don't know why. No one has been able to give a clear reason as to why this has happened. I see you smiling. Maybe you know something that I don't.
No, I just think it's ludicrous.
But nobody knows what's going on, and it has left a vacuum where everyone is speculating why this may happen. Is it that you're trying to, and these are not my words, these are the things that I hear. Is it that you're trying to stop more women from attaining these educational heights because these healthcare groups, and it's not just nursing, it's PAs, it's a lot of people who are not on the list. But the greatest majority of individuals that are in these professions are women. So you have people saying, well, is it that they're trying to stifle the growth of women? Or is it that you're trying to stifle the ability of individuals of color? A lot of individuals of color have found opportunities within healthcare. Could that be the problem? Is it that we don't vote a certain way? It's all kinds of crazy things. And I don't know what the reason is, but I know what the outcome is going to be. The outcome is going to be that people that we serve will be most affected. They're the ones that stand to lose. We're still going to get jobs. We're going to find a way. Nurses have been resilient since the days of Clara Barton, Florence Nightingale, and everyone else. We are going to find a way. But hear me loud and clear. I like to, and this might be, controversial what I'm going to say, but I like to tell people that nursing finds itself in its own civil rights movement, where we are fighting against things that are larger than us that we don't even understand. But in all movements, when people come together and they build consensus and they are moving in lockstep and they understand what's at stake, we can make change. Nurses have been change agents since day one, and we will find a way out of this issue. But until such time, what happens to the individuals that are not going to have access to the optimal care that we can provide? 80 to 90% of individuals that go into a primary care office can be treated by an advanced practice nurse and with good outcomes. It also stands to be said that in the states where you have full practice authority, you have some of the best healthcare outcomes. Now, there isn't a big, large bank of longitudinal studies that show causality between being seen by advanced practice nurse and having better healthcare outcomes. We don't have a wide body of knowledge, but correlations will say to you that if you look at the AANP map, they do a great job of showing which states are green, which are yellow, which are red. The green states have some of the best healthcare outcomes. And I don't know about anybody else out there listening, but I know I deserve it. And I'm going to continue to fight to make sure that what I know I deserve, that everybody else has access to that as well. There's also something that I want to go back to on our last question. You asked about the ICANN Act. Now, the ICANN Act is something that is so vitally important because it allows advanced practice nurses who have been trained and who are poised. Let's talk about home health in and of itself. In order to be able to write orders for home health or certified hospice eligibility, advanced practice nurses are the ones that are seeing those individuals. We see them on a daily basis. We know them, they know us. So are you trying to tell me that the patient that I have seen and I have treated, that I don't know best if they need home? I'm the one going, giving them the home care. Why can't I write an order for that? So a delay in care and increasing healthcare costs, we are putting predominantly an older set of clientele to then have to go to a physician, then for that physician to make the determination, for them to write an order, when we could have done that and cut out so much that is hampering the recovery of that individual. And so the ICANN Act allows advanced practice nurses and providers on a whole to be able to go and meet individuals today where they are, meet those needs. Advanced practice nurses are ready. Let us do our jobs.
Thank you for that clarification. You used the words coming together in answering the last couple of questions. And so that leads me to organizations. The organizations like AANP and FNAP, they lead many advocacy initiatives. So how would you evaluate the effectiveness of these organizations in advancing the NP role? And where do you see opportunities for them to strengthen their approach?
They are highly effective, highly effective. Now, I've been an AANP member since I don't even know how long. And the reason why I'm an AANP member, which is a national organization, along with other, first of all, I belong to, this is the mix. You got to have a mix. It's a mixture, right? You should belong to a local organization that speaks to you, a state, and if you could swing a regional, well, fine. But something local, something for your state, and something that's national. AANP helps to set the tone for advanced practice nurses. You know, unfortunately, nurses are not going to want to hear this, but sometimes we're so divided. And we need a unifying voice to be able to say to us, okay, now you can have your stance and you can have your outlook and you can have your perspective, but this is what is at stake. Everybody, please remember what is at stake here. And this is the way we need to coalesce to be able to get to that grand endpoint, which is optimal health care for everyone. AANP does a fabulous job at that, not just with advocacy, but with education, with practice. You know, they have their acronym PEARL, which is, you know, practice, education, advocacy, research, leadership. You want to make sure that you have an organization like AANP, like FNAP, so many national organizations. You got to belong to something, because at the end of the day, we're still doing the work on your behalf. We're still going to do the work on your behalf. Whether you're NLN, ANA, American Nurses, whichever one, we're going to do the work on your behalf. Whether you give $10 to the PAC, whether you join the organization, but how much sweeter, how much faster could we run? How much farther, how much stronger would we be in our messaging and the ability to fight the individuals and the entities and the organizations that are absolutely bent on taking us back to the dark ages? If they had your voice, if they had your expertise, if they had your dollars as membership, if they had your PAC dollars, how many nurses are there in the, I can say here in Georgia, right? Millions in the United States, maybe 5 million globally. I mean, massive numbers. But here in the state of Georgia, if all 170,000 approximate nurses in the state of Georgia, if they only gave $10, this is my new thing, Julia, right? If I asked you for a cup of coffee and a sweet treat to go with it, would you give it to me?
Of course.
Of course. Give me $10 for a cup of coffee, and see, that's my New York coming out, a cup of coffee and a sweet treat, you would give it to me. But if each of us gave the same $10 to our state organization, that's $1.7 million a year in a war chest that we could fight to really get things done. We will be able to determine who our governor is, who our mayor is, who our this is, who our that is, and make sure that the individuals that we want to fight for, that we stand on our feet every day and we fight for them at the bedside, that we could fight for them at the Capitol, and we could fight for them nationally, and we could just do so much. But if we would just show up and give Give your organization a cup of coffee and a sweet treat. $10. If we could all join. And then if you joined, then you just sat in on a committee. And every once in a while you put your hand up and you said something. You showed up. Then you stood up. Then you spoke up. We would run the world. But not all hope is lost. We will get there. I am supremely confident that we will get there, because people, I think, are getting really, really good and disgusted with what is going on, and they want to see change. So the winds of change are blowing, and we will be on the forefront leading that charge.
And I'm so glad that you are pulling all of us along as well. Because sometimes I think when you mention the word advocacy, many times you think that you have to go to the state legislature and you have to talk, but that's not necessarily true. Again, you can give your $10 and that makes a huge difference. So the people who want to speak to the legislators, the senators, they can do that. But without the funding, it's very difficult to get there.
I have a really funny friend. And she is like her homeowners association president. And she would invite her senator and her representative to the homeowners association meeting once a year. And the person would show up. Of course, they want to show up because they're interested in what's going on in their county. So they show up and she tells them about the people who are speeding. There's a pothole outside my subdivision. Little Timmy nearly got hit by this thing, that. Why wouldn't they come? She pays her taxes, and guess what? She pays the legislators. That's something that individuals don't understand, that you are the employer, they are your employee. You voted them into a position, and guess what? You have the power to vote them out if they don't meet your needs. But they can't meet your needs if you don't stand up and say something. But rest assured, someone is speaking on your behalf, but you don't show up to hear what they have to say or to counteract. Whoa. That's not what I want. So you leave a gap for someone else to come fill that gap and speak on your behalf. We would not do that under any other circumstance. You don't go to the bank where you have your money and you don't show up and take a look at the bank book and see what's happening in the accounts for someone else to come along and say, you know what, I think you should move her money into the savings account and then move the savings account into my account. And then I want you to slingshot it over to an IRA. And you're never going to do that with your money. But you do that with something more important that's bigger than your money. It's not just healthcare. It's the food that you eat. It's the air that you breathe. It's everything. Legislation undergirds every single part of our lives. But advocacy is not a dirty word. You know, it's like we start speaking astrophysics or we're speaking French. No. This is something that is so easy to get into. Anybody could get into it. Once you have a stake in your life, your daily life, these are table kitchen, bread and butter issues. Once you care about those things, and honestly, it's all of us, then you're going to show up and you're going to speak to the people who have the ability to do something about it. So if there's a pothole outside that little Timmy is dropping into every minute when they go out to their bike, you need to call somebody and tell them about that. If the clinic in your rural area is about to close, and that's where everybody gets health care, are you not going to say something about that? You have power. And the individuals that make the laws, they want to hear from you because they want to do a good job. Because guess what? They want to get elected again. And they also need to pass a budget. And they need to understand, well, what should go in the budget dollars towards this, that, and the next. You don't say anything, they're going to give it towards the others who do show up. So don't show up for me. Show up for yourself. Show up for yourself. And if you don't have the ability to become Michelle Nelson with the big mouth, who's just going crazy and going off right now, you know, you can become her. I wasn't hatched out of an egg this way. I just said, I want better. I want better for my family, for myself, and the individuals that I serve. So just show up and start small and ramp up from there. And then don't go by yourself. You got to bring somebody with you. Your two girlfriends at your job, someone at the church. It doesn't even have to be someone in healthcare. It has to be someone who cares about healthcare, which is all of us, because every single one of us are going to interface with the healthcare system at some point. It's going to be all of us, right, Julia? So you got to be in it to win it.
I agree. You have such an extraordinary amount of experience, and drawing on that experience, including being the UAPRN state president in Georgia, tell us a little bit about different challenges that NPs face in your state, different states, and then how can the NPs within their state tailor advocacy strategies to address their unique specific issue?
I've got a great example of that. So when I was UAPRN president, we were just so desperate to get something passed. Before I became UAPRN president, we had not had legislation passed on behalf of advanced practice nurses in the state of Georgia for 15 years.
Wow.
There was nothing cooking here in Georgia. And so I had not led anything before, but I was just so determined that I was going to change something. I did not want to be one of those leaders that just showed up and gave lip service. I was going to be out and about in the streets with my people from the foothills of Georgia all the way down to the shores down in South Georgia. I was going to be all over. And then I started to look outward within the region, and I noticed, up until a certain point, Georgia and Florida were on par for being the most restricted states. And then Florida was able to pass its version of full practice authority, but it had transition to practice hours, right? So some of our national organizations don't necessarily look at it as full practice authority unless you're getting the whole kit and caboodle, but they were able to get some version of it. And so I reached out to them to say, how'd you do it? That's the easiest way, the lowest hanging fruit, to see another group or another person that's doing what it is, particularly if it's close to you and you guys demographically look the same. Well, how did they do it? And they shared with me that they had found a physician that was extremely empathetic to the plight of advanced practice nurses in the state. He was extremely supportive and understood that if Floridians wanted to have access to better care, that advanced practice nurses needed to be part of that equation. And so he was able to drum up some support for that bill. And that's how they got their version of full practice authority across the finish line. So I said, well, we needed to start convening and building coalitions here in the state and throughout the region so that we're not just getting support within the state, but interstate as well. And this is not something that is fully realized, but best believe that I'm working on it. Because what I would like to see, Julia, is that any state that is going for full practice authority, that you be able to call up Michelle and say, Michelle, fire up the engines and get the squad ready. I need you to come to blah, blah, blah. And a busload show up. And everybody is working towards the same thing because there's power in numbers. And I can tell you, for many, many nights being at the Capitol till late hours into the night, advocacy can be very lonely because it's a handful of individuals that do it. I don't think people realize that, it's not a big group of us down at the Capitol. It's a handful. There's 5, maybe 10 people down there going off and, pulling people out. But imagine if we had hundreds? And that's not hard to do when you have a state like mine that has tens of thousands. If you had hundreds of individuals at the Capitol blanketing the Capitol and particularly reaching out to the legislators that are new and those that may be on the fence, educate them. They're not against you. They're just not educated enough to understand that this is the way. We are not trying as advanced practice nurses to go do brain surgery on our patients. We're trying to provide, in most instances, primary care, unless you are trained to do other specific things, which we are very much capable of doing, right? But let's say you had advanced practice nurses that did a handful of things. You did education and treatment and monitoring of diabetes, chronic kidney disease, obesity, hypertension. Give me another good one.
Heart failure,
heart disease, heart failure. If we, you know how many lives we would save if we could just do that? And we can.
it was very interesting. Indiana is not a full practice authority state, and we thought we had it a few years ago, but guess who showed up in numbers is the American Medical Association. And with all those numbers, they kiboshed it immediately. And I don't think that advanced practice nurses realize how much AMA and physician groups get together to kind of stop us. And there's not enough of us to push back.
There is enough of us, and I wasn't going to mention them. But since you did, Julia, here's the one thing I can say that I really admire about them. There's quite a few, because we absolutely value our physician colleagues. Absolutely, right? But one thing that they do magnificently, without a doubt, is support each other. You do not hear them say, well, I'm the neurosurgeon and you're primary care and I'm the podiatrist and I'm no. We are physicians and we dig down in our wallets and we come up with that money, honey. That money flows. And so their packs are just brimming and ready and poised to be able to give to individuals that help them to get their messaging and whatever it is that they want to get across. And they publish it to the public how they defeat us at every turn. And guess what? We outpace them in numbers. We are the largest healthcare workforce, the largest. And if we will all just give something, we would be able to, we don't want to crush them. We don't want to use verbiage that they use towards us, because we're not here to crush anybody. We're here to be a part of the healthcare groups that are taking care of individuals. We want to be part of the interprofessional medical teams, right? But physicians are not above me. I'm not you hear people call themselves mid-level.
Yeah.
Mid-levels. The only person above me is God. There's no one above me. I am trained to do specifically what I am trained to do. And I practice at the highest levels of what I'm trained to do. They practice at the highest level of what they're trained to do. No one is above anybody, and we understand our role within the healthcare system, within healthcare teams, and everybody is valued and needed. And I wish that they could see us that way. We are not competition. We're not competition, because everyone is needed in this entire big healthcare milieu. We're all needed. And so there's a place for everyone. So if we all just work together, then we could do what we actually went to school to do, which is to save lives.
And that leads me into the next question. A lot of your work focuses specifically on professional role identification for APRNs. Can you let us know how can educational institutions and other professional organizations better prepare NPs to develop a more strong professional identity that's going to support effective advocacy?
It is extremely important that advocacy be embedded in curricula. When I was in NP school, there wasn't such a focus on it. But I teach, the professional roles and the health policy class at my institution. Shout out to the mighty, mighty Clayton State, for which I am the proud graduate director. I push advocacy in the classroom, out of the classroom, to the faculty, to any. I am a walking billboard for all types of advocacy because I feel that to just be the voice is not enough. I had to walk the walk and talk the talk as well. And so I invite my students and anyone else that will listen to come to the Capitol to be engaged. If you don't know how to do it, we will train you. APRN, while I was the president, I conceptualized and developed so many different initiatives. One of them is the LEAD program, along with our lobbyist, as well as Updated 8, which during the legislative session, every single Thursday evening at 8 o'clock, we give a full update of what happened at the Capitol the week before. We invite everyone to listen to it, and we make sure that individuals are well versed and up to date with what is happening. But it takes embedding advocacy in each part of what we're doing, whether you're in an academic institution, you're in a clinical setting, you go to church, every single thing. My sorority, I keep people abreast of what's going on. There's no way, if I'm going to the bathroom, if they had a bathroom convention today, I would be talking about legislation going on. I'm a sicko because it's the only way. It's the only way. If you want to see true, wide-based, substantive change where people are kept abreast of what's going on, where they live, work, and play, legislation is the way to do it. And to be able to advocate for it, people need to be educated on what is necessary, and then they need to get out and about. So most certainly starting in schools. And guess what? I've also put together initiatives that encompass pipelines from young kids. So, we have I have other organizations that I'm a part of where we do advocacy training for middle schools. So they can't vote, but they're very attuned to what's going on. It's not like us that were playing with that little paddle ball that nearly knocked our eyes out when we were 10. These kids are watching TV and they know what's going on. So advocacy training needs to start in the schools from young, from home, speak to your kids, anywhere they can be incorporated.
Before we wrap up this first part of 2 parts, I want you to give us a couple of POWs or pearls of wisdom, specifically about, throughout this conversation, you've emphasized organizational membership as such a key factor. So what types of approaches have proven the most effective for engaging NPs who really might not see themselves as an advocate?
First and foremost, advocacy starts with your vote. I remember I was teaching a class once, and there was a young man in the class, and I was jumping up and down, sweating. It's like I had given a whole sermon about advocacy. And the young man said to me, this is a graduate student now. He said to me, "You know what, Dr. Nelson, I'm so inspired. I'm going to register to vote." Clutch my pearls if I had some pearls on. You're going to register to vote? You're sitting in graduate school and you're not even registered to vote, which means you've never voted. So first and foremost, if you're out there and you have not registered to vote, or you're saying that your vote doesn't matter, every Vote matters. We have seen individuals win elections by 22 votes. Every vote matters. Okay? So people have died and bled and fought for the right to vote. You need to get up and vote, and don't go by yourself. You need to be taking individuals with you to go vote. That's number one. But before you go vote, you need to educate yourself on what individuals' platforms are. Who are you voting for? You should not show up and vote a party line. I have gone to the polls and I have voted for mixture because I know these individuals. I'm not voting Republican or Democrat. I vote for my party. My party is nursing. My party is the party of healthcare. And if you're not speaking my language and somebody else is, that person gets my vote. You need to understand who you're voting for because we vote people into power and then we're like, wait a minute, what's going on here? So educate yourself, register to vote, vote. Don't go by yourself. Take someone with you. And then guess what? Stay in tune with what they're doing. Don't say, okay, I've put my person in place. They're going to do the right thing. Stay on top of what they're doing. Hold them accountable. Go meet them for coffee, tea. These people will meet you. They want to meet you. They want to know what their constituents want. So they're best representing you because they know that they'll always get your vote if you have their back because they're delivering for you. And then guess what? If they don't, then what do you do, Julia? You vote them out. And it keeps going. So that's my first thing. Okay. And then you have to make sure that you get out and you are involved in what's going on in your community. People call me, gubernatorial candidates, congressional candidates. People call me. I don't even know where they get my cell phone number from. Dr. Nelson, I need you. I can't win without you. I need you to da, 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 da. How did I become that way? Remember, I came from Brooklyn. I didn't know anything or anyone here in Georgia. But what I did do is after work, I would go out and I would go to receptions. I would go meet them. I would go shake their hands. Hi, my name is Michelle. This is what I'm fighting for on behalf of nursing. This is what people need, blah, 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 blah. And slowly they understand, well, I saw her at the last thing. And here she pops up here. And oh, she's trying to talk to me. And oh, so then slowly, and in many instances, very quickly, they catch on that you are the voice. You know what you're talking about. You're educated. You're well-versed. And they're going to reach out to you. And then you become that de facto go-to person for them. So you have to show up. And then when you show up, you got to stand up so that they can see you. You didn't dress up cute for nothing, right? And then once you stand up, you got to speak up and let them know that you mean business and that you have the ability to sway people whichever way. So they need to listen to what you have to say. So those are my two pearls for today, Julia.
Thank you. I agree with your grad student. You really are inspiring. And I appreciate not only to have this one conversation with you, but for the second part as well.
It is my pleasure to be here to share all of this. I can't wait till part two.
I can't either. Really, the passion and expertise that you bring to all of this critical work, it really is inspiring, Michelle. And I really look forward to seeing you and continuing the discussion.
Yes, Julia, this is just the beginning. We're just getting started. There's so much more to say and to do. Someone took the time to inspire me, to champion me, to motivate me, and to get behind me when I thought I myself couldn't do it. I've had amazing leaders throughout my nursing career. And so because they have poured into me, it is my responsibility and duty, as everyone out here listening, it is your responsibility and duty to pour into those that come behind you, who are beside you. And sometimes you have to lead up the people who are above you. You also have to pour into them. So all things are possible, and we're going to get there together. Julia, thank you.
Agreed. To all of our viewers and listeners, I hope that today's Pearls of Wisdom has sparked something exciting within you. So whether you're a seasoned advocate or you're just beginning to find your voice, remember that every NP has that power to create a meaningful change for our profession as well as our patients. Again, I extend my heartfelt thanks to Dr. Nelson for generously sharing her wealth of knowledge and her time. These conversations in the POWs remind all of us of the tremendous impact that we can make when we unite all of our voices. If you found value in today's discussion, please subscribe to the Nurse Practitioner Journal's NP-POW podcast and also share them with your colleagues. Our profession grows stronger when we learn to advocate together. Until next time, this is Julia Rogers reminding you to practice with passion, lead with purpose, and find joy in the journey. See everyone soon.
For more great content from the Nurse Practitioner, be sure to visit us online at tnpj.com for the latest NCPD articles, columns, and much more. Please leave us a 5-star review on iTunes and Spotify, as it helps with the podcast's visibility and helps us to keep bringing you this great content. Also, don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn at The Nurse Practitioner Journal and on X at TNPJ_journal. This podcast does not constitute medical advice and should not be taken as such, and does not replace professional judgment or advice. The ideas and viewpoints expressed on this podcast do not reflect the official position of the speakers, authors, affiliated organizations, the Nurse Practitioner Journal, or Wolters Kluwer. Thanks for listening.